How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to the second installment of my Overwatch League Awards. In today's episode, I'll be giving out my awards for Stage 2 of the 2019 season. The categories will be the same as my Stage 1 awards, meaning that I'll be giving one out for MVP, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Team, and Most Improved Player. The credentials I'm using are the same as well. Both statistics and performance a game are going to be the two big factors I use to decide who wins an award. Oh, and one more thing. Please refrain from getting angry if you disagree with anything I say. What you hear is strictly my opinion. None of what I say is a universal fact. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions after all. And that's all you really need to know. So without wasting any more time, let's get started by kicking off the video with my MVP. Just like with last stage, there are practically limitless options for this. However, I decided to limit down my choices to the players on the San Francisco Shock and the Vancouver Titans since they very clearly have the best players in the current meta, which is very evident by the fact that they are all statistically near the top of their respective roles and make up two of the best teams in the league as it currently stands. I think that pretty much anyone on either starting lineup is deserving of this award, so this pick is definitely up for debate. It's also worth noting that it's tough to give MVP to one specific player in the GOATS meta because individual plays just can't be made nearly as often as they can in a DPS meta. Coordinated combos between multiple players is usually required to help make a big play or get a team wipe. After careful consideration, I decided to go with Sinatraa in the end. The man somehow found a way to step up his game even more than he did during Stage 1. His Zarya has been absolutely out of this world. It's been obvious for a while now that him and Salmansu are two of the best Zarya players in the entire world. Last stage it was a lot closer in terms of stats and overall performances in game. The two were unbelievably close in every single way you could think of. I personally think Salmansu had the slight edge by the end of Stage 1 since he died less and was a bit more involved when it came to getting kills. This stage appears to be much different. Not only did Sinatraa significantly close the gap in the eliminations and deaths per 10 minutes department, but he also maintained his league best damage per 10 minutes. Look at a stat comparison if you don't believe me. Salmansu averages slightly less deaths and more eliminations, but Sinatraa holds a noticeable lead in damage. His 13,055 damage per 10 minutes is over 1,000 better than Salmansu, and over 2,000 better than Fitz, who currently sits at number 3 in terms of average damage. If you're number 1 in damage, 2 in eliminations, and top 15 in deaths per 10 minutes, then I think it's safe to say you're having a pretty dominant season. Sinatraa has been a consistent contributor for his team and is definitely one of the league's best playmakers. His absurd damage output allows him to not just consistently keep his enemies low on health, but it also lets him charge Graviton Surge at an unreal rate. I don't think I've ever seen someone charge Gravs up faster than Sinatraa does. He can literally whiff his ult, and it won't even matter because he'll get it back in the same exact team fight. Sinatraa has come a long way since Season 1, and only continues to get better and better while fulfilling the potential we all knew he possessed. There are also a few honorable mentions I quickly wanted to give up before moving on to the next award because there's just so many people who deserve to win it. I first wanted to start with both Super and Bumper. Their superb main tank play is something else. I could literally just play clips of them dominating and making massive plays for this entire video if I wanted to. These two guys are as clutch as they come, and it's not just the game results that back it up. Look at their stats during teamfights on Reinhardt this stage. They both rank top 10 in every single category, and better yet, Super is top 2 in everything. It's honestly insane how both of these players are. The last player I wanted to bring up is Violet. In my opinion, he is without a doubt the best flex support player in the entire league. He even surpasses the likes of Jonek with how he's played this stage. Not only was he clutch during the playoffs, but throughout the entirety of the stage as well. Sometimes he uses transit bad times, but it's definitely not as bad as some people seem to think. You can't be that bad at healing up your team if you average the most healing out of any starting support player in the entire league, right? It's also worth noting that he ranks first in damage among all flex support players as well. He's clearly one of the best Zen players in the league, if not the best. I know some people weren't convinced after Stage 1, but I think you kind of have to consider him one of the best at this point, right? I could keep going all day on how much I like some of these other MVP candidates, but I really don't want to make this video too long, so honorable mention also to both Choyobin and Janu as well. Their diva play is simply on another level right now. Not many players can match what they did this stage. The next award I wanted to bring up is Rookie of the Stage, and with the way I was talking about a certain flex support player just a few moments ago, I think you guys know where I'm going with this one. I personally think the most deserving person of this accolade by a slight margin is Violet. Once again, I think that pretty much anyone from Vancouver is deserving of this award, as well as a few other players in the league, but Violet is in my opinion the best person to give it to. Throughout the entire history of the Overwatch League, there has only been one person who has fragged out harder on Zen than Jonek consistently, and it's Violet. You can see how much this high level of play has benefited his team too. His high damage and healing rate has been a massive help for his team. If it's not Sinatraa, Super, or Choyobin making the big plays, then it's usually Violet. It hurts me to say this as a Sleepy fan, but it's obvious that Violet has been a pretty big upgrade. Everyone from Vancouver has been dominant, so I'd understand if you think one of them deserves to win it a little bit more. You could realistically give the award to any of them, but we all know how great they are, and I've kind of praised them a lot here on this channel already, so let's talk about a few of the other standout rookies you could maybe give it to. A few in particular that jump out for me are Gushue and Crystal for helping the Spark go from a mediocre to solid team this stage while improving their language and overall in-game skills, both Roar and Decay for similar reasons, and Fitz from the Soul Dynasty for being one of the top Zaryas in the league after after not looking like anything special during Stage 1. Again, this is another one of those awards that is very much up for debate, so it's fine if you disagree. But now let's move on to Most Improved Team. There are a few teams in particular that are pretty deserving of this award. You could go with the LA Gladiators for going from a 3-4 team that looked like they had no idea what they were doing half of the time to one that had a top 4 finish in the Stage 2 standings. The London Spitfire are also in a pretty similar situation to the Gladiators. They were a mediocre GOATS team who simply looked lost at times, but they had a substantial turnaround during Stage 2. Doubling your win count when compared to Stage 1 while looking like a competent GOATS team most of the time shows major signs of growth. You could also go with the Shock 2 since they technically did improve when compared to Stage 1. Going from 4-3 to 7-0 while dropping a grand total of 0 maps in those games is a pretty noticeable improvement, and they even capped it off by winning the Stage 2 championship, which is something they've never done in the history of their franchise. In the end though, I decided to pick the Hangzhou Spark. They're in a pretty similar boat to the London Spitfire and Los Angeles Gladiators where they were mediocre in Stage 1 but became a completely different beast in Stage 2. They went from a struggling 3-4 team that just simply looked lost at times to one that had a top 4 finish in the Stage 2 playoffs after absolutely stunning the London Spitfire in the first round. While there were some inconsistency issues along the way still for these guys, they definitely proved their clutch when it matters most. They outplayed the Seoul Dynasty to make the stage playoffs and even won their first ever playoff series. This team had reasonably high expectations coming into the year and now they're finally fulfilling them. I think it's safe to say that both them and the Gladiators have improved leaps and bounds when it comes to their GOATs. Gushue and Crystal improved upon their Korean, and Roar and Dakar are more comfortable speaking English now. The spectacular play from these four, as well as the improvement from the rest of their respective teammates, have allowed them to climb up higher on the league's tier list. And last, but certainly not least, is the Most Improved Player accolade. This award was unbelievably difficult for me to decide on. There were a large handful of players who showed good improvement when compared to Stage 1. Some of the standouts who have shown noticeable improvement in my opinion are KSF for showcasing a better Zarya and overall play when he's in the game, Gesture for looking like a competent Reinhardt more often, and Roar for not just looking more comfortable on stage, but also no longer feeding his brains out so much. The candidate that I decided to go with, however, is Marvel from the Seoul Dynasty. People, including myself, initially questioned Fissure being benched in favor of him, but he soon proved exactly why the Dynasty sees so much worth in him. He was able to fill in the shoes of Fissure much better than anticipated. Marvel proved that he possessed similar playmaking abilities on both Winston and Reinhardt by fragging out on multiple occasions. The stats suggest that he did a good job of replacing Fissure too. Have a look for yourself. Fissure so far this year has 16.70 eliminations, 5.54 deaths, and 7,969 damage per 10 minutes. Marvel, on the other hand, puts up an average of 16.40 eliminations, 5.52 deaths, and 7,751 damage per 10 minutes. As you can see, their numbers are extremely similar. And while Fissure seems to do a little bit better in terms of kill contribution, it's also true that Fissure has an aggressive playstyle that requires his team to devote many resources to him to keep him up so he can make these big plays. Marvel plays more passively and still puts up nearly identical numbers. He's proven that he has more than what it takes to compete against the other top main tanks in the league, which is something that we all weren't willing to say in Stage 1 for the most part because we saw him as more of just the player who was meant to be part of the supposed B team. Marvel has grown into quite the player this stage, and I think he deserves to win this award for showcasing that. And with that being said, those are my player and team awards for Stage 2. Feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments section, and while you're at it, leave your own awards for this stage. If you enjoyed this content, then be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.